My daughter, Nerisi, was born in the year 2 BC. That's 2 years before COVID, 2018. My son, Ryan, was born 30 days before the Ministry of Health confirmed the first case of COVID-19 in Jamaica. About a month ago, the three of us were watching the local news on television as Tropical Storm Ian approached Jamaica. So I had told them about hurricanes and storms, and Nerisi in particular was very worried. So they watched the headlines keenly with the images of the storm map on the screen. Then the news went to commercial break, and both Nerisi and Ryan promptly said, "Mommy, skip the ad." And I said, "But you can't skip the ad. This is TV, this is not YouTube. You have to wait until the commercials are finished and the news comes back." "But Mommy, why can't you skip the ad?" they asked. "We want to see the storm." And I had no good answer for them other than, well, that's just the way it is on TV. And it occurred to me that these children's entire concept of how one is supposed to consume media is completely different from what we grew up understanding it to be. Broadcast television is alien to them. In their minds, ads are supposed to be optional, and you should be able to watch anything at any time, not when a television station's program director tells you to watch it. At 2 and 4 years old, they have already been conditioned on convenience. These are YouTube and Netflix babies, Generation Alpha. They are growing up with the expectation of choice. These are our future customers, employees, and leaders. My oldest daughter, Alexa, was born in the year 17 BC. That's 2003. She's Gen Z. She's now 19 years old and has recently taken a liking to nonfiction. So she asked me for some recommendations, and I loaned her my copy of Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. How many of you here are familiar with Malcolm Gladwell? You ever read anything by him? Raise your hand. Nobody, a few people I see. All right, so do you like his work? Whoever raised your hand, you like it? You like Malcolm Gladwell? Yes, Debbie says yes. Well, he's a really great writer, multiple award-winning, New York Times bestseller, etc., etc. By the way, he's also of Jamaican heritage. Well, Alexa abandoned The Tipping Point just a few pages in. She said she didn't like his style, and he took too long to get to the point. I'm like, what? You don't like Gladwell? You don't like his style? Multiple award-winning writer Gladwell? I mean, you didn't even give it a chance. You only read a few pages. But then it dawned on me, and it all made perfect sense. Alexa is part of the TikTok generation. How many of you ever use TikTok? A few people in the room laughing guiltily, I suppose. Well, I don't know if you know this, but there's a reason TikTok is so addictive. And the reason is that TikTok is really, really good at showing you exactly what you want to see. So if the longer you watch something, TikTok will assume that you like that sort of thing and show you more of the same thing, more things like that. If you're an avid TikTok user, you learn very quickly that if you don't like something, you need to swipe it away quickly. Otherwise, TikTok is going to show you more things like that that you don't like. So TikTok forces you to make very rapid decisions about what you like and what you don't like. So upon reflection, it shouldn't be surprising that Alexa decided after just a few pages that she didn't like The Tipping Point, and she was done with it. See, for people of my generation and older, we need to see things through. How many times have you heard people say, you must finish what you start? Sounds familiar? So I have finished many things that I didn't particularly like just out of obligation to finish. Gen Z harbors no such obligation. They are immediate and decisive. If it doesn't please them quickly, they will abandon it. These are our new customers and employees and our future leaders. And then there is my generation. I was born in the year 37 BC. That's 1983, which places me among the older millennials. These are our biggest customers now, the majority of our workforce, and among our current leaders. We are a generation that straddles the analog and the digital ages. I'm old enough to remember when TV used to sign up at a certain hour. You remember that? And when you couldn't use the phone and the internet at the same time, because you get the, the sign. And I've witnessed the birth of social media. Actually, I was in college when Facebook started, and I was probably among the first 1 million to 10 million users. They now have 3 billion active daily users. I was in back then when Poke was Facebook's big appeal, that feature. I've seen the rise of Netflix, but I also remember Blockbuster and VHS tapes. I've seen the invention and the evolution of the cell phone, but I also remember rotary phones. My kids don't know what that is. And now I'm seeing automations, artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, and robots. What made me feel really old one day was when Alexa, my oldest, said to me, "There was no YouTube when you were small? You're ancient." I wonder what Nerisi and Ryan will say that I'm ancient for in another 10 years. But see, even though I grew up analog, my life is now very much digital. I remember my childhood with nostalgia, but I'm also grateful for the technological advances that make life so much easier, and I participate in them gleefully. As a matter of fact, I even started a disruptive digital business, an entire media company based on YouTube. Who would have thunk it? When I started taking stock in 2019, everyone told me it would never work unless it was on television. Advertisers would never invest in a YouTube show, they said. But they were wrong. I pioneered a business model that I now see others successfully replicating, creating content specifically for social media and finding innovative ways to monetize beyond the traditional 30-second commercial. We are now competing with traditional media for advertising dollars and eyeballs, and many in traditional media are now struggling to find ways to enter the social media space profitably. See, if you have the right idea at the right time with the right motive, you can reach the right audience and you have a formula for success. My motive was simply to create a business show that you didn't need an advanced degree to understand. The stock market was popping, I was learning how to invest, but I couldn't find any information that was simple and I dare say fun, so I created it. Because you see, what many in both the media and financial industries have failed to understand is that business, and by extension business news, is actually not about numbers. So what's it about then? It's not about profit and loss or the stock market rising and falling. At its core, business is about people. You're in business first to serve people. And money comes as a byproduct when you serve people well. Numbers-focused business news and financial reports seem to forget that. Companies are formed to create products and services for people. So when you're telling the story of a company's performance, it's always important to connect that to how well it serves those people. Otherwise, why should anybody care about your report? If you're only giving me the numbers and not the story behind the numbers and the impact of those numbers, then what that got to do with me? I don't care. So when Lasco Financial reports $2.5 billion in revenue and $306 million in profits for 2022, which, by the way, is almost double what you reported in 2021, you have to ask the questions. Yes, round of applause for that. You guys did very well last year. So you have to ask the questions, What does that mean for your customers? What does that mean for your employees? What does that mean for your agents, you in the room? And I see in your annual report that remittances grew for reasons familiar to you here, among them a competitor temporarily going out of business and people using more official channels to send remittances since travel was restricted during COVID, among other things. And I see where the company launched the innovative Skip the Line service, allowing remittance receivers to get the money straight to their bank accounts, a service in line with the expectations of your current and future customers in this digital age. But I also see in your annual report the following passage, and I heard your managing director reference it in her presentation as well. The migration to digital platforms to send funds to Jamaica is having a significant impact on our earnings, as the reduced fees to consumers have resulted in reduced commissions to LFSL. Meanwhile, the local model is still a legacy-driven agent disbursement model with increasingly high cash costs. LSFL has been fully engaged in implementing services to shift consumers to digital transactions, and we are confident that the adoptions will increase in coming periods. To reduce the impact on the decreasing revenue per transaction, LFSL must drive scale in transactions at a faster pace to keep increasing revenues. So naturally, there are pros and cons to digitization. Customers love the convenience and the security of skipping the line, but it also means that you're earning lower commissions as agents and as a company. Now, your leaders believe that this can be overcome by getting people to send more money more often, which may well occur now that it's become easier and cheaper to do so. Which brings me to my next point about fear. Embracing change is not always easy. While we praise disruption, we also fear its impact. But as some things die, new things that we never even imagined are born. Has anyone here seen the 2016 movie Hidden Figures? You know, Hidden Figures? A few people, right? It stars Taraji P. Henson, Octavia Spencer, and Janelle Monáe as Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, three brilliant African-American mathematicians working for NASA in the 1960s. So for those of you, I saw some people at this table raise their hand. Do you remember what their official job title was in that movie? Anybody? I hear something. Anybody? What was their official job title? Would you believe it if I tell you their job title at NASA was computer? Computer. There was a time when computers were people. Can you believe it? That seems laughable now because we all know computers are machines, and machine computers can obviously compute and process at multiple times the speed that a human computer ever could. So there's a part in the movie where NASA first brings in an IBM computer. It's a massive beast of a machine. It takes up the entire room. And so Octavia's character, Dorothy Vaughan, has to bring this reality to her team of human computers, all black women. And she writes on the chalkboard, the IBM 7090 data processor. It has the capability of solving over 24,000 multiplications per second. Holy Moses, that's lightning fast. They'll never get that to work, said two of the human computers, to which Dorothy replies, oh, it'll run eventually, and when it does, we have to know how to program it, unless you'd rather be out of a job. Accepting, adapting to, and even more importantly, anticipating change is extremely important if you want to survive. You have to be looking not just at millennials and Gen Zers now, but 20 years ahead at Generation Alpha. What are their experiences and expectations? What will they create? Will they live in the metaverse? Mark Zuckerberg has bet billions of dollars in that belief. Will they give us the first colony on Mars? SpaceX and Virgin Galactica are already offering space tours, so it's not that far-fetched. Will the Jetsons' image of sky traffic and Rosie the robot maid finally become a reality? I just saw on the news that United Airlines has bought 200 air taxis, and it will cost $100 to $200 to fly home from work to avoid traffic. Meanwhile, Elon Musk just unveiled his new robot, Tesla Optimus, which he plans to start mass producing and selling by 2027. That's only 5 years away. Optimus will cost, he expects, $20,000, which is less than the annual salary of most garbage collectors, waiters, housekeepers, and many other professions. Will those jobs be replaced by robots? Will money even be a meaningful concept anymore, as cryptocurrencies, stable coins, and even central bank digital currencies gain more popularity? And what will all of this mean for all of your businesses? Will there be displacement of jobs and obsolescence of entire industries? Yes. But imagine all the new jobs and industries that will be created as automation and artificial intelligence emancipate us from menial, mundane, and time-consuming tasks and allow us instead to truly explore the extent and the depths of human creativity and intellect. It sounds amazing, but maybe it will also drive us crazy. Which brings me to my final story. When Alexa was 16 years old, she came to me one day and she said, "Mommy, I think I'm depressed." It was said in a tone that indicated some seriousness. It was clear she was not saying this frivolously, but had thought about it deeply and arrived at this somber conclusion. My initial reaction was, "But what is thinking about depressed? What?" Oh, she's being dramatic, she just wants attention, man. In my mind, I was rolling my eyes and kissing my teeth hard, thinking this child has everything. We live in a nice home, she goes to a great school, she has food on the table every day, and she's part of a loving family. And she's even learning how to drive and about to get her own car. But depressed? Does she know that there are children out there being abused? Does she know that there are children homeless and starving who have to beg on the streets? Those children have a right to be depressed, not this privileged, uptown, sheltered little girl, but depressed. But as much as I thought those things, I didn't say them. Something was clearly going on with her. Her grades were falling and her behavior was cause for concern. I had chalked it up to puberty and teenage rebellion, but perhaps it was more, even though I was still very skeptical that it could actually be depression. It took us the next 2 to 3 years of therapy to get to the root of her feelings. Turns out, she was battling a range of emotions, going all the way back to her father and I splitting when she was a baby, and him moving away to the United States and starting a family. So daddy issues. And then there was the fact that I had recently gotten married and was pregnant with my first child from that marriage. She'd gone 16 years as an only child, and now my attention would be devoted to this new baby. And after the baby was born, she showed no interest, no excitement, no joy. She didn't even want to look at her baby sister. Turns out she was battling feelings of envy and resentment towards the child who, in her mind, had everything that she ever wanted as a child, mother and father and this perfect family. So my assumption that she had no real problems to be depressed about was completely wrong. She had legitimate, deep-rooted issues, and it was very mature of her to recognize that, come to me and seek help. At her age, I would never have even thought to complain about being depressed. Would you? Would you have ever dared to tell your parents you're depressed? No, right? That's just not something we grew up with. Even now at my age, it's still hard for me to accept stress and anxiety as real problems. To my generation and older, these are just rough patches that everybody goes through from time to time, and you just work same way and push through it. But for Gen Z, mental health is a priority, and they recognize and cherish that in a way that we haven't. Maybe it has to do with the fact that they grew up watching Kanye West experience multiple mental health breakdowns publicly and the impact that has had on his career. Maybe it has to do with them watching us trying to cover up and work through our own mental health issues. Or maybe Gen Z is just smarter than we are, and they recognize the fact that physical and mental health work together. According to a report in Forbes magazine, 82% of Gen Zers want mental health days as a regular part of their job bonuses. Nearly 2 in 3 Gen Zers have taken a mental health day from school or work in 2022, and 15% say they've even talked to their boss about mental health. I could never see myself telling my boss I have a mental health problem. Like, in what world? But Gen Zers, they do that. Consistent with the desire for mental health days, survey respondents listed burnout and lack of work-life balance as the number 2 reason why Gen Zers would quit their job, surpassed only by the top response, unsatisfactory salary. Now, this whole concept of a mental health day may sound ridiculous and even frivolous to our generations, but we have to recognize that illness is not only physical. And especially in this digital age where we're all so connected, so ubiquitously wired, we have to pay attention to our mental health. Our generations didn't grow up with the expectation of being always on and always available. How many of you use your phones as an alarm? Almost everybody in the room. So the first thing you do every single morning is reach for your phone to turn off your alarm. And since it's already in your hand, well, let me just check my messages real quick. And then there's an email from your boss. Okay, let me just respond to this quickly. And you don't even realize that it's not normal to be in your bed at 6 a.m. working very first thing as you open your eyes, even though work doesn't officially start until 9 a.m. But it's okay because it's just a quick message until your boss responds at 6:05 a.m. and now they know you're up, so you have to respond back. And you spend the rest of the morning texting with one hand and trying to get the kids ready with the other hand and trying to eat at the same time, and you never really get a chance to ease into your morning with a clear mind. And the same thing happens at lunchtime and in the evenings, right up until the time that you fall asleep with the phone in your hand. And it's not just bosses, it's also our customers. There's an expectation that we must always be available, right? Sounds familiar? I get this all the time. People send me a DM and they expect an immediate answer. And if I take more than a day to respond, they complain, even though most of the time it's a question they could have easily asked Google. Don't ever tell them that, though. So if our businesses are to thrive in this hyper-connected digital age, we have to make mental health a priority for ourselves, our employees, and our customers. And we have to approach situations with empathy rather than assumptions. If we can reduce stress and anxiety for our customers and employees by making their lives easier, then not only should we do that, we must do that, even if the change causes us slight discomfort in the beginning. So in conclusion, thriving in the digital era requires innovation, using technology to meet our customers' expectations of ease and convenience, anticipating and preparing for change, and importantly, prioritizing mental health and me time. So I hope that these stories will sit with you this morning and in the days and months to come as you contemplate the future of your own businesses Change used to happen slowly. Now the advances are exponential. Are you ready and prepared to run with it? Thank you.